especially working with people and taking them out to the bush. It doesn't matter who you are on this planet, like every single person on this planet, your ancestors were hunter-gatherer indigenous people. They might have been indigenous to England, Ireland, Australia, South America, Asia, like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But in all of our DNA is this deep knowledge and connection with the earth. Like we're not separate from it.
Yeah.
But modern lifestyle and society and culture has tricked a lot of us into thinking that we are.
Yes.
We live in these beautiful houses with the weather's kept outside, it's temperature controlled, we got comfy beds, we're staring at screens all day, and that's all fine. But for so many people, I reckon there's this deep yearning for what we're programmed to be. And I reckon so much of the unhappiness and unhealthiness in our society is because we're disconnected. We've forgotten where we're from. Like we're made up of the earth.
Just want to say a big hey to you, Chris, and thanks so much for coming in today and sharing a bit of your story and
Pleasure.
I guess what you're about. And just want to give everyone a little bit of background. You and I have kind of only met about a year ago at a lunch that was organised by a mutual friend, so you and I were complete strangers. From my point of view, I sat around at that table of high achieving gentlemen, which was fabulous. But the minute I saw you, the energy that you had, I felt almost like a home feeling, which is pretty rare, especially for us guys, that women tend to have more opportunities to, I guess, connect. But I felt as soon as I met you that there was an affinity there. You felt like someone I'd known for a time before. And I guess we can touch on our journey to date and some of the cool things that we're trying to do. But I guess I just wanted to open up by saying that your passion and your fire for humanity, for nature, for being like a advocate for wildlife, and just your passion for life it's been to date really inspiring for me. So I just want to genuinely from the heart just say a big thanks to you for that, and introduce you to everyone as medicine man, naturalist, spiritualist, guide, all those things, and I'm proud to say now my friend. So I guess to start off, just tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are now and what you're actually doing now. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, firstly.
Yeah.
Lovely to be here. And I've got fond memories of that lunch too.
Yep.
There were a few empty seats when I got there at that table, and something drew me to sit next to you, and we sparked up a conversation, and
Yep.
here we are a year later.
Yeah.
Fair bit of stuff's happened in that time.
Yes.
So, why am I sitting here today? How far back do you want me to go?
Well, this is I want this to be about you and your journey and you as an amazing human, and I guess what it's taken you and what the bad shit, the good shit, whatever it's taken to get you to where you're at now.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you to touch on whatever you want to.
Cool. I think the thing that pops to mind just as we start talking is because I'm super passionate about bush.
Yeah.
And going out into nature, taking other people into nature and helping them connect to the incredible power and healing that's on offer out in the bush here in Australia, but wherever you are, around the world.
Yeah.
And what is popping into my head is when I was a little kid, you know, from pretty little, how my dad and mum took me out into nature. So we would go on picnics or little trips on the weekend or go for drives and down in northern New South Wales. And my dad was into collecting fossils and rocks and things. So as a young kid, I'd spend just whole days in the bush sitting around while he was off looking for his fossils. And him and mum also took us on lots of walks in national parks and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm forever grateful to them for that, because that sparked something in me. Even at that young age, I just felt at home out in the bush and in nature. And I reckon all little kids do, you know.
Yeah.
Before we train it out of them. So those early days out in the bush definitely had a big impact on what's going on today, I'd say.
Nice.
Yeah.
So big boys, little boys in big boys' bodies.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's... When I work with clients, it's amazing how often people say, oh, I can't draw, I can't sing, or I can't go into the bush, that's scary. But then you go to a kindergarten class and every kid can draw and every kid can sing and every kid can be an actor or actress, and every kid's got their hands in the dirt and in their imagination. And maybe there's something gone a bit sideways in our society or our school system that... And I remember too, like for years, I had a voice in my head and the message was, I can't sing. I could play guitar, I love playing guitar. But there was a voice saying, you can't sing, you're no good at singing. I don't know where that came from. Maybe from trying to be in the choir at school or something.
Yeah.
But there was a guy in my life who encouraged me to get up and perform in front of people.
Yeah.
The first time it happened, I was fucking terrified.
Yeah.
Like, so terrified to sing a song. And that guy's name is Nathaniel, and I'm also forever grateful to him because he didn't really give me a choice. He just pretty much pushed me out on the stage.
Yeah.
And suddenly that story disintegrated and I could sing, you know? Yeah. So I love helping people change their stories. It's pretty powerful, I reckon, the stories that we tell ourselves, you know?
Absolutely. When we were fortunate enough that you organised that bush trip a month or so ago, obviously you and I had plenty of discussions and we, you know, talking about life and different connections, and specifically the connection between mind, body and nature. But it wasn't until we got into that pretty serious hike that I really, I guess, as people, we all look at other people with a certain amount of judgment and a certain amount of, we're looking at people through our own perspective or through our own paradigm. And I guess it's been a long time, or if ever, I've been around a group of guys being led by you, that your leadership and the such strong affinity with nature that you had, and to the specifically the Mount Barney region that we you know spent a few days immersed in. I guess from my point of view, I just felt like I didn't have to worry about what we were doing or where we were going to go. I just because your affinity with it and because of your confidence in those areas and your positive nature. And I guess just your energy too, that anything's achievable, so that, come on guys, get your shit together, let's keep moving, was, I guess, a bit of a defining time for me. And also, it's probably changed my mindset a little bit forever. It's also really helped me to think about my reconnection with nature. So I just want to say a big thanks for that. And it's not until you're submersed in nature on some pretty hectic kilometres and long days that you find a different side of yourself. You work through, your body breaks down, and then it's a mind game. And I guess I just feel fortunate to be with yourself and those other bunch of guys that we went with. But I just like you to kind of, if you can, elaborate for everyone about your connection with nature and how that makes you feel and what path that's by tapping back into that. What is that? How's that changed you?
Big question. So I reckon something that has keeps becoming more apparent to me, and especially working with people and taking them out to the bush. It doesn't matter who you are on this planet, like every single person on this planet, your ancestors were hunter-gatherer, indigenous people. They might have been indigenous to England, Ireland, Australia, South America, Asia, like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But in all of our DNA is this deep knowledge and connection with the earth. Like we're not separate from it.
Yeah.
But modern lifestyle and society and culture has tricked a lot of us into thinking that we are.
Yes.
We live in these beautiful houses with the weather's kept outside, it's temperature controlled, we got comfy beds, we're staring at screens all day, and that's all fine. But for so many people, I reckon there's this deep yearning for what we're programmed to be. And I reckon so much of the unhappiness and unhealthiness in our society is because we're disconnected. We've forgotten where we're from. Like we're made up of the earth.
Yes.
And when we die, we're going to go back into it.
Yes.
So, yeah, like I said, my parents from an early age introduced me to that connection, and it just happened by spending time in nature.
Yeah.
And I think there's two beautiful ways to be in nature. One is like with a planned itinerary. So we're starting here, we're hiking up this mountain, and we're going down here and down this creek, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
There's the whole physical challenge, and it awakens that thing in our bodies where we're using our peripheral vision, we're walking on uneven surfaces, we're using all the muscles in our body, not just the ones for walking on flat. So that awakens something in us. That's how we got our food, was going out into the bush and finding it or killing it. But the other beautiful way to be in nature is just to be still and sit. And I really love helping people tap into that as well. And that's what I got as a kid. I'd be with my mum and dad would be off doing whatever, and I just have to sit around. And as you sit in nature, this thing shuts up and you just start tuning in and you see what that particular plant's doing, what the birds are doing, what the weather's doing. And I guess it brings like peace and calm and this deep sense of connection, right? And I think that's what so many people are missing. So I got that as a young kid, and then in high school, our school had like a outdoor ed, school camp type of thing. Out in that same country where we went for our walk recently. And in year 10, they took us on this 3-day, 2-night hike. So the teacher was there, but as a group of year 10s or 11s or whatever we were, we had to do the work. So we all had backpacks and we had maps and compasses, and we had to work out how to get from A to B and do all the navigation. And some of the groups failed miserably. You know, I got completely lost and were like 10 hours overdue and all sorts of stuff. But I just loved it.
Yeah.
Because for the first time, I wasn't following someone else in the bush. And there's this incredible piece that happens. If someone's leading you in the bush, or, you know, even if they're walking at the front of the pack, a switch turns off in a lot of people's heads. And it's the switch of, I need to remember where I'm going.
Yeah.
Because we're just following that guy, you know?
Yeah.
So on this school camp thing, suddenly there's the bush, and it was up to us to work out where we had to go. So it changed you in this whole different way, because suddenly it's on you. And if you get lost, that's on you.
Yeah.
So you have to start reading the country, working out the best route to pick, remembering landmarks, all that sort of stuff. So that ignited something in me as well.
Yeah.
And that particular piece of country out there, it's about an hour and a half out of Brisbane.
Yeah.
The main mountain there, traditional name is Bugar, which means way back.
Yeah.
And if you look out from Brisbane, you can see the mountains out in the distance, and Mount Barney, this particular one, is always up the back.
Yeah.
And so I've spent a lot of time out there over the years, and it's become, for me, going out there feels like going home. When I go there, all my troubles wash away. Things that are troubling me are soothed. Often I get answers to things that are like problems in my life. And I could just I could move there tomorrow and just stay there, you know, and I've got some favourite spots, you know, in Australia, beautiful places that I love to go to, but this place is my country, you know, that's where I feel at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that really hit me early on that trip, I think it was like before sunrise, we left at 2:30 a.m. on the Saturday morning, and you said to us that there was someone special you wanted us to meet. And obviously us, mostly being city guys, really didn't know what you meant. And then we pull up in the dark, and there's a little fire going, and there's a charismatic gentleman standing there. And the words that came from him, and obviously his connection to you and your connection to him, and then his connection to Indigenous, the community, the earth, the rock, the stone, everything that he spoke about. And then we did the smoking ceremony, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
That really, I think in this world that we're in, we've lost a lot of the traditional, almost tribal rituals, and people are, you know, there's fences everywhere, there's barriers everywhere, there's rules everywhere. One thing that did for me was really bring me back to feeling really connected straight away to a couple other guys I'd never even met, to this other gentleman. And by doing the smoking and feeling that freezing cold morning air, I think we all felt far more alive, a little uncomfortable probably, and a little nervous, but more alive, which is the whole concept of why we're here, right? If you live your life and you don't actually feel like you're alive and you're doing things that are changing you, that single thing of welcome to country and the smoky thing will be forever in my mind. And I guess for people who haven't had an opportunity to do that at all, or even recently, my suggestion would be to try and get out and get some more experiences like that, because the way it makes you feel the way on that trip, I put my mobile phone away for 2 days straight. I didn't even want to look at it. I didn't even worry about it. All I was worried about was, can I make it? There was a different set of challenges and mindset, which for me was extremely, it was like a new lease on life. Because I being a business person, I am controlled a little bit by my phone, or controlled a lot actually, if I want to be fucking serious. And just to have that simple release of knowing that nothing's in charge of you and being submersed. And when we sat after that first tough climb on one of the peaks there, overlooking that Mount Barney area, the solid feeling from the earth, from all the rock, and just how long that's been there, and you could see Brisbane way off in the distance, it really put us as little humans back in our place, where we think that we revolve around things around ourselves that are so important in our life and our families and this and that. But when you submerse, like we did with you, and you have someone there like yourself to explain it, it makes such a difference. And it actually put things into perspective for me, which I haven't had done to me for many years. So yeah. So tell me, how does that feel for you when you can share that with people?
Well, it's a privilege. It's a massive privilege. So I think it's important to remember that the Aboriginal people have lived here in Australia, on this country, for 100,000 years, if not longer.
Yeah.
And put that in perspective, Jesus was cruising around 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And they were building pyramids maybe a couple of thousand years before that. So it's like 4,000 years. We're talking like 100,000 years. So, and every part of Australia was someone's country, and still is.
Yeah.
And so if you want to know about how things work in your particular part of Australia, like how the country works, what the plants do, what the animals do, what the connections are between them, and then what, as humans, our part in that whole beautiful structure is, and how we should live in relationship with everything else in our environment in a way that is positive and respectful and reciprocal, then you need to ask the people whose country it is how to do that.
Yes.
And I have had the great honour and privilege of learning a little bit of that story from some beautiful men down in Western New South Wales, and just want to acknowledge my Damu, my grandfather, Uncle Paul Gordon, for the knowledge that he's passed on to me.
Yes.
And so that's one of the main, how do you say, I think if people can remember and reawaken that idea of being a small part of a big system, then it means we're in relationship with everything and we have responsibilities.
Yes.
And so that's a massive reason of why I'm doing what I'm doing, because of the immeasurable gifts that learning from country has brought me.
Yeah.
I want to pass that on to help other people experience that same thing. Because the more of us that experience that and reconnect to where we come from, to Mother Earth, then the better chance we have of saving this planet and saving ourselves, you know?
Correct. And
Yeah.
I think the further along that road you go, you start to realise that there is no separation. That like there's one sky, it's our earth that we all share, and we are all just like little flowers that pop up out of the earth and then go back to the earth, like you said before. And the sooner, I think it's far less intimidating once you realise that you're part of the big picture instead of you being the big picture, which then directly puts you under more ego, more stress, more if you can assimilate a little bit of those thoughts that it's okay to be part of the big picture. There's a certain amount of release and your anxiety drops, probably some health improvements. So I guess the reason why it's such a strong thing is to appreciate nature and to get out and to experience it. A lot of life now is experienced through a screen. And that's okay for numbers and some simple solutions to certain problems and to look at everything else. But with nature, you can look at a picture, say for instance of Mount Barney. It is nothing like being at Mount Barney or climbing Mount Barney and feeling that pain and the pleasure that come together by being almost at one. It's almost like these beautiful areas reveal their beauty, but you have to do the work. You can't just tap, tap, tap and get the download. You actually have to mentally and physically carry out a task that can be daunting and beautiful to give you back something way more than what you can get on the screen. And I guess that was so refreshing to me. Like you, I spent a lot of time as kids, rock pools and beaches and nature. Nature was really how I grew up. But I guess you can look at a picture and a beautiful painting of a landscape, but it doesn't do you the benefit of submersing yourself in its grandeur and in its authenticity of what it doesn't pretend to be anything. It's harsh, it's beautiful, it's cold, it's hot, it can kill you. It is everything that we try to insulate ourselves with or against, when in actual fact we just need to embrace it.
And I think it's good to remember too, like, you can definitely go deep into nature, and quite often that can involve some physicality. You know, hiking or canoeing or whatever, or driving for a long way. But not everyone can do that as well. That doesn't mean it's off limits. You can find it in your backyard. You can find it down at the park, or down on the waterfront, or at the beach. It can be that easy, right? But it might just be a matter of maybe you go to the park and maybe you take your shoes off. And actually, like, there's people whose bare feet literally don't touch the earth. They're constantly in shoes, or they're inside. So even that, putting your feet in the grass, or feeling the cool dew in the early morning. And then maybe it's just taking 5 minutes. Like maybe you do your walk with the dogs in the morning, but maybe you just spend 5 minutes in the park and you find a special spot under a nice tree and you just sit there. Maybe just for 5-10 minutes. Do that once a day or once a week, and suddenly you're gonna start noticing things. So you can't be on your phone. Keep that in the pocket, even put it on silent. But even at 5 minutes, and suddenly, if you do that regularly, you're going to start to notice changes in the season, or that tree's dropping its leaves. Oh look, there's baby birds, you know, and you just start to connect in. So that's what I like to tell people, is it's accessible no matter who you are and where you are. But there's also something amazing about putting on a backpack and going.
But you're right, it is definitely accessible to everyone. For most people at least, within 10 minutes to half an hour, there's a park or a beach or a creek or something you can do. And I just think we've become a society that just looks at what's in front of their face. We don't look down, we don't look up. So even with my kids, we're fortunate enough to be on some land, so the sky's a little bit bigger overnight. But I constantly am infatuated with the regulation of the moon. When I go on my walks, which is most nights, down to the bay, the tides, how high is the tide? How's the moon affecting the tide? And I'm trying to talk to my kids about that. Because the majority of people, especially, and I'm not talking about all folks and probably not country folks, people in agricultural backgrounds, but city folks especially, probably don't ever know what cycle the moon's at, because there's so much going on right in front of them. They're kind of forgetting about the big picture, which is below and above. And I completely agree with what you said. Even when my daughter has had some panic attacks, the best thing to do is to get them outside, get their breathing regulated, and get them to walk on bare ground. It's amazing the difference compared to being isolated in a room watching a screen, compared to broadening your vision, grounding yourself, and realizing, hey, I'm just this little thing. It's not that bad. So, I guess from my point of view, I'm also interested on your thoughts on natural medicines. I'm a big advocate, have been for a long time, and especially now with you, with being able to assist and acknowledge different remedies and herbal practices. I really feel that, and this may be a little bit polarizing, but and I'm not here to say anything nasty about any particular companies, but there is a lot more avenues that need to be explored for natural healing through exercise and mind and body, and just different ways of thinking than just turning straight away to pharmaceuticals, which a lot of the times lead to lifelong dependencies that lead to other things. I guess as I get older, I'm about trying to fix the problem at its root cause, not about trying to fix you up for today and send you on your way. And I'm trying to look at what's the best way to fix that at its core so that you can move forward better. So just explain to me a little bit how you feel about that, and some of the the simple wins that are out there.
Yeah, good question. Big topic.
It's a massive topic. I know. Sorry to put you in it.
No. I love this stuff. So maybe I'll share a bit of my story, which will help.
Sure.
Explain things a bit.
Yep.
So I grew up in Australia, and like probably most kids in Australia, not all, but most, if I was sick, I got taken to the doctor, and I used to love going to the doctor because he had a big jar of lollies, right? Yeah. And every time we saw the doctor, I just spent the whole time staring at the lolly jar because I knew at the end of the appointment I was going to get a lolly.
Yeah.
So even then, that's fucked up because I started equate being sick with like rewards.
Yeah.
Right? Which is insanity. And 9 times out of 10, probably, I'd have an ear infection or a chest infection or whatever, kid stuff, and get some antibiotics. Now, I want to say straight up that Western medicine is incredible.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of medicine systems in the world. There's traditional medicine systems, and there's a bunch of them. And then there's modern allopathic, let's call it Western medicine.
Yeah. And
it is incredible. And like, if I have cancer, or I'm in a car accident, or I need brain surgery, or have a heart attack, like I'm going straight to the hospital.
Yeah.
However, the idea of drugs and pharmaceuticals and things is a really interesting one, because if you rewind, let's say 1,000 years,
yeah.
There was no hospitals, doctors, pharmacies, tablets, none of that. So if you were sick in the old days, You either got better by yourself or you took natural medicine, which was plants,
Yeah.
or you died.
Hmm.
That was it. And all those sort of, let's call them minor complaints, coughs, colds, skin issues, upset digestion, whatever. If those things were happening to you, then you took plants. Maybe it was garlic for a cold, or, echinacea for like a blood issue, or, and every place, every bit of country on the planet had its particular medicinal plants. And the indigenous people from those countries knew which plants to use for which thing. There might have been like a medicine person in the village, and they held that knowledge.
Yeah.
So if you were sick, you went and saw them, and they knew that, let's get some of this plant, that'll fix them up. And it's interesting that a lot of modern medicines are derived from plants.
Yeah.
So aspirin's derived from the bark of the willow tree. Something as simple as aspirin. Plants are free. Pharmaceuticals aren't.
Yes.
And, like anything, when there's lots of money involved, things get complicated.
Yes.
And the truth of a lot of modern medicine is that there's side effects. So antibiotics are amazing, life-saving medicine, but they'll also wipe out all your microbiome and, destroy good things as well as the bad things.
Yeah.
So like anything, there's pros and cons, and there's a cost, So yeah, I grew up in that system, take antibiotics if you were sick, yada, yada, yada. So my story's taken a few twists and turns over the years. I had a incredible, beautiful childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I was nurtured and supported by my mum and dad. But for whatever reason, I just never felt quite comfortable in my own skin. Can't really put it any better than that, but I fitted in at school, and I did pretty well at school and played sport and all that. I had friends and all that sort of stuff. But there was just this like underlying unease or something. And as a teenager, I experimented with drugs. And when I did experiment with them, I felt better. That's kind of the simplest way I can put it.
Yeah.
I didn't feel quite right before, and then when I took different drugs, I was like, I feel better. So for me, I just thought, well, it's a bit of a no-brainer. I'm just going to do this more often.
Yeah.
So I started doing it more often, and then fast forward a little bit, and I didn't have a choice anymore. So I was a drug addict for probably about 12, 13 years, up to the age of 27. And that was a very painful period in my life, personally, but especially for the people close to me.
Yes.
The people who love me, my family, partners, friends. And without going into, the horror stories of all that entailed, probably the biggest thing for me was not knowing who I was, not being able to keep my word to either myself or other people.
Yeah.
And just being a fraud, basically. And I have so much empathy for people who are still in active addiction, because it is just the worst place.
Yeah.
The worst place. And I was fortunate enough to find a fellowship of people who had who were in recovery, who'd found a way to get free of that active addiction. And those people saved my life, literally saved my life. And so I've been on a recovery journey for 16 years now. And what's beautiful about that, firstly, I don't hurt people close to me anymore. But if I give my word to someone, I keep it.
Yeah.
If I give my word to myself, I keep it. And I can look myself in the eye, in the mirror. Previously, in addiction, I couldn't do that. I just couldn't look myself in the eye because I fucking hated who was looking back. I was ashamed and despised the person looking back. And today, genuinely can look in the mirror and be very proud and happy with who's looking back, which is incredible, And that unease, that unease that I felt as a kid isn't there anymore, So anyway, back to the story. So I got clean like 16 years ago, and that was the start of my journey into wellness, getting well, like in all aspects. So the first step in that journey for me was obviously getting clean and stopping using drugs. And as part of the 12-step fellowship that I'm a part of, there's the 12-step process is about kind of taking a good hard look at yourself and working out a few things about maybe why you were using in the first place and all that sort of stuff. So there's a whole inner journey, a whole heap of inner work that I've done over the years, which has contributed. But starting weights, so I went to rehab, and a lot of the fellas at rehab had done a bit of jail, and so the first step in my wellness journey was actually doing weights with a cigarette, at the same time, with some of the boys. And that led me to the gym, and that led me into quitting smoking cigarettes, which led me into doing some jogging. So it's been this kind of domino effect. And I want to make special mention of two girls that I used to work with, Simone and Amy, and because while I was going to the gym and jogging and stuff, but I was just eating like hamburgers, milkshakes, meat pies, just give it to me and I'll eat it. So I wasn't very diet conscious yet. And these two women that I worked with they were making their own brekkie. So they were making this like birch and muesli. They were grating apple and soaking the oats overnight. And they were talking about it one day, and I was like, can you teach me how to do that? So they gave me the recipe, and I went home and bought the stuff and made this muesli and soaked it overnight. And in the morning, I remember the first spoonful I took of that, and it was like this revelation, because suddenly I'd created this meal that was super fucking healthy, and I was eating it. So I was like, I was suddenly proactive in this other way, around diet. So that was a big step. And then one of those women was practicing yoga at the time and just raved about it. So I was like, sign me up.
Let's do it.
How do I do it? So I started yoga and practiced Ashtanga yoga with Richard Clark at Paddington in Brisbane for over a decade. Incredible teacher, super knowledgeable man. And tied with yoga is Ayurveda, which is the traditional Indian medicine system. Like I mentioned, there's traditional systems, there's Chinese medicine, Tibetan medicine, Western medicine, all these traditional systems utilizing herbs as their medicine. And as a kid, I got pneumonia, so I got scars on my lungs. So every time I'd get a cold, I'd get a chest infection. And what that meant was going to the doctor, antibiotics, but that was happening like 4 or 5 times a year. So I was on antibiotics like 4 or 5 times a year,
Yeah.
which was, I was getting rid of my chest infections, but it was having a big impact,
Yes.
probably on my overall immunity, my gut health, all that sort of stuff. But I didn't know any different. I'm like, you get sick, you go to the doctor. And Richard, my yoga teacher, saw this happening and suggested a herbal formula to me. So this was liquid herbs, like in a tincture,
Yep.
and herbs that are specific, so plants that are specific and help humans with lung stuff.
Yeah.
So there's herbs to expectorate and herbs to moisten and liquefy the mucus, right, and get it out.
Yes.
And herbs to stimulate the immune system. So I started taking these herbs, and they didn't work overnight. Like antibiotics will clear it in a couple of days. That didn't happen. But like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks later, gone. Crazy chest infection cleared. And that was the light bulb for me. I went, holy shit, like there's another way.
Yeah. It's not just fixing it when it happens, it's what can you do, right, to root cause.
100% root cause. And that's one of the unfortunate aspects of Western, probably more an aspect of our culture, I reckon, is that quick fix.
Yeah.
So treat your body like an amusement park and then do a 7-day juice, juice fast. Trash your body all year and go to Bali for a week and do a yoga retreat. Like, get a headache, take some Panadol. It's this, can't sleep, take a Valium. It's like, and what that does is, like you were saying, just treat the symptom.
Yeah.
Treat the outlying symptom. What all traditional medicine's about is it's less concerned with the symptom. It's concerned with why is that symptom happening.
Yeah.
Because a symptom, let's say a headache, that's your body trying to communicate. Because your body can't talk. So it communicates. So it puts a rash on your skin or it makes your head throb. And it's saying, hey, something's not right. I need you to help correct this. And that's what herbal medicine's all about. It goes underneath and goes, what's the underlying issue here? Let's get in and treat that.
Yes.
And the beautiful thing about herbs is little to no side effects for the majority of herbs. You can take them often in conjunction with other medicines, so they're complementary.
Yeah.
If you grow them, they're free.
Yes.
And they work.
Yeah.
So long story short, all that stuff got me started on this journey into wellness and well-being. And what I'm all about today is passing on what was freely given to me, right? It's that people saw I was sick, unwell, struggling, defeated.
Yeah.
And they reached out and said, hey, there's another way. Or maybe they didn't even suggest it. They just shared what was going on for them. Like that beautiful woman who shared her yoga thing with me.
Yeah.
And I was talking earlier about stories and the stories that we have. And I reckon before even changing a story, there's just this beautiful piece and becoming open to other things, and that's what I reckon is really powerful out in the bush.
Yeah.
Is it just creates this space to let people open up.
Yeah.
That there's other ways of looking at things and doing things. Yeah.
I guess I'm also part of the reason why I'm so excited about getting you in and talking to other people who I respect is everyday people trying to do extraordinary things, and just looking at the mindset behind those things and realizing in life that we have to go to a dark place. We have to find our outer limits and boundaries if we really want to be a full person at the end of the journey. If you live your life completely with like little barriers all the time, yes, you mightn't have any massive failures, but you're probably not going to test yourself enough to know when's dark, like how dark can you go, how light can you go. The thing that I just find so inspiring and mesmerizing is listening to stories like yourself where people have failed and they've had fear, because I've had all those things myself and still do to this day. And that you can't move to the next journey, you can't try and broaden your outlook and become a better human without delving into some of that darkness and using that hopefully as a strength once you're in a position and you've got the support to do that, to move back to where you need to be. It's almost as if the dark creates the light. And there is no light without dark, there's no dark without light, right? It's a little bit, you know, it's like our whole life. So I guess for me, that inspiring part from you, and I guess maybe you want to elaborate a little bit about, you know, the strength you've taken from knowing that how crap you can feel to knowing how amazing you can feel, and how that can be sustainable with discipline, goals, and I guess some self-love. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's it's such a. I mean, life is suffering, right?
Yeah.
The Buddha
predominantly.
The Buddha said that, and the suffering is created by our mind. I think that's, you know, bad shit happens, and some people experience some really shit stuff. Spent a decade working with disengaged and traumatized young people, and I was always so inspired by their resilience, and like some of these young people, man, like you can't even imagine how bad their childhood is. And whatever the worst thing you can imagine, like times it by 10, and it's still not close.
Yeah.
And yet some of these young people are so sassy and fucking resilient and like tell you where to go like that, you know?
Yeah.
And but on the same hand, there's also young people in that space who don't have that, you know, and become real victims of their circumstances and things. And I think, so, you know, I think everyone suffers, and we all, most of us try and deal with it the best we can, you know, and we learn from our parents who learn from their parents, and most people are just doing the best they can with what they got, you know. But that said, there is a whole heap of things that people can do to change their story, recreate and manifest a new life and existence, a new mindset. And that's what I really dig, is working with people in that space and seeing people change direction. You know, because I often talk to people about your life's heading along like this, and if nothing changes, then you'll be 60 and 70 and 80, and then you'll die.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is change it this much today. You change it that much today, and then 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, it's like poles apart.
Yeah.
So it only requires small changes, but it requires some persistence and a bit of like grit, you know, because it won't be fun and amazing the whole time.
Yeah.
There'll be days where you just aren't into it, you know, where you can be fucked, or you throw it all out the window and go and eat 3 pizzas, or, you know. And a lot of that stuff will come back to mindset, I reckon. And the truth of it is that some people want it and can do it, and some people want it and can't seem to do it, and other people just don't want it. They're just happy doing their thing, you know, and like, awesome. But I love working with people who are either want it and ready or still in that indecision, because there's a beautiful piece in helping someone
Yeah.
get to a point,
To move forward.
right?
Yeah.
And I think the bush, going out on country and being in the bush, there's magic that happens out there that can inspire stuff in people.
Yeah.
We saw that on our trip. Like, I think everyone who came on the recent bush immersion has stepped up their fitness game
For sure.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Because we're all, myself included, like, oh man, I thought I was kind of fit, but I'm
Yeah.
not as fit as I probably need to be.
Yeah. But it pushes you to make that connection, right?
Yeah.
Because unless you're challenged,
Yeah.
you can make up whatever story you want.
Yeah.
So unless your story is challenged about walking into somewhere and thinking that you have this ability or that ability, until you're actually challenged, you can't actually draw a line in the sand and say, right, this is a few little issues here that I need to address. And
Yeah.
I completely hear you. Like, as soon as my legs were broken for that week, and it was awesome. It was broken in a good way.
Yeah.
I had to lift my own legs out of the car at the service station, and the people out at Boona must have gone, "What's wrong with this guy? He's just something's not right with him."
Yeah.
But the euphoria I felt based around that feeling, that discomfort that I'd earned. I'd had to earn that discomfort. It wasn't just given to me, and because I had to earn it, I was happy to deal with it. I think if people give you immediate discomfort, it's harder to deal with. But if you've had to work to find that spot, there's a growth that happens. And I know the conversation that I had with Alan on the way back in the truck was we were both completely exhausted, but felt like our goalposts had changed. The way we thought about all the things that seemed to be so important on the drive there, on the drive home, we'd changed. And it's amazing how 40 hours of hard grind, spiritual chats, listening to nature, listening to your body, feeling parts of your body you didn't even know you still had, in soreness, but doing the cold swims, going to bed with the sun, hopping up with the sun, all the things that, as you said, our ancestors and the traditional custodians of the land have done forever, which was normal life, is now not normal life anymore.
Yeah.
And I think there is a massive gap that needs to be bridged if we're going to feel whole again as a community and back to individuals, families, communities. We need to, like you said earlier, listen more to nature, to the earth, to those people that still carry that knowledge, and try and integrate even just small parts of it back into our life, because as you're aware, I'm a massive nature lover, and really looking forward to making some positive change in Australia and around the world over the next decade through other businesses. But the one thing that I guess I'm kind of learning is that you need to go and experiencing these things for yourself. Like, you need to go and do these things, because sometimes a story or sitting there is just not enough. You need to go and touch plants, walk down the trail, feel the cold water.
For sure.
Appreciate the sun after the rain, and just, I guess, embrace everything as a gift, because whether it's a bad emotion, a good emotion, it's still a gift that's given to you. It's making you feel a certain way enough that damn right you're fucking alive, because it's either really painful, it's euphoric, or it's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And I think everyone is looking for quick hits of euphoria, and it's just not sustainable. So therefore that leads to a lot more mental anguish, a lot more anxiety and depression, and no self-love, judging yourself on way too many people that you see online that look better than you, that talk better than you, that are doing more things, which is probably not real anyway. So I think if you can just be out and be with nature, and nature's accepting of us, right? I mean, look what we're doing to the planet, and yet we're still all here. It's not throwing up volcanoes all the time, and the asteroids are not just coming every week. It's a very understanding environment. We just need to understand that environment better, because we've lost that little bit of connection.
Yeah.
And I guess with that connection also comes more passion for life and more gratitude and more learning.
Yeah.
And knowing that, yeah, it's not just the destination, it's how you get there and what you become. And that's why I love, and I really appreciate your honesty about where you've been and why now you have such a fire and a passion to work with nature, to help people on really simple key things that if people can put those little things back into their life, it can improve their health physically, mentally, their relationships, their business, and just the way which most important, I feel, is the way you feel about yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you can't respect yourself and keep those little key promises that you make, how the hell are you going to keep them to your partner or to your kids or to your colleagues?
For sure.
And I think nature, which I found with you on that trip, was such a good leveler. It didn't matter when we all turned up who had what money, who had what shoes on, what's your investment strategy. That was all gone. It was just amazing. So it was simplified, and life just doesn't have to be as complicated, I guess, as we try to make it. And as important, these small things would make really huge things. When you strip it all away, it's actually quite simple to find that little bit of peace.
I think you're right, and I think that's always my message to people, is that it can look daunting, especially if you're a bit depressed or carrying some extra kilos, or relationship sucks, or you're in a shitty job. We can get into places in life that seem pretty hopeless and insurmountable.
Yeah.
And all we have to do is take the next step. And there's a few basics that I always bang on about to people. And it's just the fundamentals. So getting good sleep, eating good food, moving your body every day.
Yeah.
And you think about those ancestors. So your DNA, like your greats, they ate clean food.
Yeah.
Vegetables, fruits, nuts, bit of meat, maybe a bit of grains, maybe a bit of dairy, but that come much later.
Yeah.
But clean food, right? Like they talk about, meat and vegetables, or the outside of the supermarket, not the inside.
Yeah.
So clean up your diet a bit, throw out the packets and the sugar and the shit food.
Yeah.
And then move your body every day. And if you're out of shape, just go for a walk. But if you go from doing nothing to go and walk around the block every day, you're a step further down that road. You've started that little journey. And getting good sleep, super important. And then herbal medicine, I reckon, is such a beautiful thing. And you don't have to go and see a practitioner or come and see me and pay money. Go and just get some garlic and ginger from the supermarket and start using that in your food. Yep. Make like a ginger, lemon, honey tea in the morning. So good for you, so many benefits. Garlic will reduce blood pressure, help with intestinal worms like parasites and stuff like that, coughs and colds, antibiotic, antibacterial, and you go get it at Woolworths. So it can be that simple, just to start adding some medicinal plants into your diet. And there's a magic that happens with them, I reckon.
Yeah.
They just turn this little switch on inside us, and suddenly you can become just that little bit more conscious of your health. If you're having your honey, lemon, ginger tea in the morning, might be slightly less inclined to have your 2 litres of Coke in the afternoon. It just switches that little... So it's like the fundamentals,
Yeah.
Don't have to go and climb Mount Everest. Just go for a walk around the block.
From what I've seen through my own progress over the last couple of decades, is the single biggest thing I see that I've been able to make the change is really reducing sugar.
Yeah.
And somehow, in our Western society especially, sugar's found its way and preservatives into everything that we kind of eat. whether you think it's in there or not, it's found a way, as well as food colorings and
Yeah.
all these other things, right? So to me, I think for a long time it's been thought that animal fats and fat and this and that was all the bad guy, but I think it's pretty clearly now through a lot of studies that even by just simply, as you said, eating clean and reducing your sugar
Yeah.
has a massive impact, not just physically, but on your mental health.
For sure.
Because you don't have that spikes.
Yeah.
You don't have the fatigue and then the rush, and then you're looking for the next rush. I found, for me personally, it's far better to sit somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And then you're far less likely to be triggered.
Yeah.
Or to break down to, I'm going to eat that shit food. If you can stay somewhere in the middle and you're not trying to be, like a monk.
Yep.
And you're not trying to be the guy that just eats the crap. Just sit somewhere in the middle and just make those few changes.
It's so, mate, you've hit the nail on the head, because quite often people will start a regime, cut out sugar or, go on a big diet, and it'll last for a certain amount of time, and then there'll be a day and they've had a shit day at work, or they had a fight with the partner, or they're just feeling tired, they eat some chocolate, and then it's so often I see people just throw the baby out with the bathwater. They're like, oh, fuck it.
Yeah.
But all this stuff's a sliding scale. So with the sugar, there's eating, Coke and lollies and chocolate bars and stuff every day. And up this end of the spectrum is zero sugar at all.
Yeah.
But there's a whole heap of stuff in between.
There is. That's doable, right?
Right? Just cut out soft drinks.
Yeah.
Or just eat natural sugar. So eat some fruit, eat some berries or some dates, or instead of a Mars bar.
Yeah.
Or instead of chocolate every night, just have it a couple of nights. And it's like the sliders on the stereo. You can have it all the way up or all the way down, or you can just work with it, and the less the better. And over time, things will start shifting that way. Yeah. The other important bit too, I reckon, is with all those foundations, if you're exercising and you start building up your exercise regime, your body is going to tell you to eat better.
Yeah.
If you've trained this morning and then you're due to train tomorrow morning, your body is not going to like you eating a big thing of KFC for dinner, because you're going to feel shit the next morning.
Yeah.
Or smashing a family block of chocolate.
Yeah.
There'll be a price to pay. So it's like, the more you start eating better, the more energy you've got for exercise, the more you exercise, it sort of informs what your body wants to put in.
So it's like a positive wheel that you can just add to slowly.
100%.
And then eventually it just becomes habitual, which is what we all aim for, and it becomes more of a learnt behaviour. Rather than just trying to go from zero to hero, which is not sustainable, whether you're talking about drugs, alcohol, sugar, it doesn't matter. You have to have it. You have to do it.
You don't walk out the door and run a marathon.
No.
You start walking around the block, and then you jog 2Ks, and then you jog 5Ks. Like, that's how you do it.
I remember years ago I was inspired by a lot of the stuff that Goggins has said, and when he was working for Eco Labs and stuff over in the States, and he was way out of shape, and he got his shoes when he'd made the mindset, and he was so disappointed because he thought he was just going to head off and run, and he realised that he just can't fucking run.
Yeah.
So he walked.
Yeah.
But that walk turned into a shuffle, turned into a slow jog, and as you said, like you look at guys like him that's been through Hell Week 3 times, and it's not about winning straight away or winning quick. It's about winning over a long-term strategy and being disciplined enough to know that you're not perfect. So don't go crazy, start and build plateaus and be happy that you might sit there for a little while, and then you'll add something else, and then something might fall away, but then you add something else, and then you add a couple more things, and then you might meet someone else in your life that goes, hey, let's go walking every morning, or do you want to join the gym, or hey, I'm making this really cool dinner tonight, and I'm trying it out,
100%.
And I guess they're the things that inspire me, not just the zero to hero, because you realize zero to hero is bullshit and it's not sustainable.
And I think you touched on another really important point, is who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
So that is really important.
Yes.
And if all your mates eat KFC and play video games and smoke bongs, pretty likely you're going to be doing the same thing.
Totally.
If you join a gym and suddenly some of your friends in a circle are training regularly, that's going to have it's going to rub off.
Yes.
So I think it's really important for people to look at who the 5 closest people are in their life.
Yeah.
Not so much family, but friends.
Yeah.
Who those 5 people are, the 5 people you're spending the most time with. It's going to have a big impact on who you are.
Yeah. So choose wisely, right?
Choose wisely and get out there and meet new people if you need to. And I think the other really important point is some people can do this stuff by themselves. Like a Goggins or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Some people just have that mongrel discipline mindset. But for a lot of us, we don't, and we need help.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't gotten to a point of being ready to ask for help when I was fucking broken, but then also being willing to accept it. But I think it's super important for people to always be a student of something, like to have a teacher or a mentor or a guide, because I think there's a real humility that comes with being in the role of a student, whatever it is. If you've got a trainer at the gym or a yoga teacher or you're learning an instrument or whatever, right? Or doing some study. But I think there's a beautiful piece to always being a student of something.
Yeah.
Where you put yourself at the feet of someone who knows more than you.
Yes.
And you are open and learn from them. And I've had a number of people in my life, and still do, who are my teachers, and always grateful for the knowledge that they pass on. But with that wellness stuff, I'd really encourage people, don't sort of struggle doing it alone.
Yeah.
Find a trainer, find a dietitian, find a friend who's done that journey.
Yeah.
Or find someone at the gym who's obviously got it going on.
Yeah.
And just see if they want to get a coffee.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, dude, how did you get so fucking fit?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? Tell me.
Yeah. What's your routine, right?
100%.
So
what do you eat? What's your routine?
Routine, if you can look at someone's routine, even if it's written down on paper, I've found for times in my life when I've been struggling with all sorts of things, if you looked at my routine, it reflected why I was struggling.
100%.
If you look at a routine that I've put in place when things seem to be supposedly going my way, it's because there's so much discipline and consistency built into that.
Yep.
That you kind of don't need to see the person or the thing. Well, that's a recipe that makes something better than that.
Yep.
And I think if you can stick to that recipe, you're going to build something better. As you said, it doesn't matter. It can be an instrument, a partnership, a business, being better to your kids or your wife. It can be all those things. But if you've got that routine down pat and you've thought about it in a logical manner and you continue to punish yourself on that routine, you're going to get it better. You're going to get a really good result.
100%.
And that's guaranteed. It's impossible not to.
Yeah. I think it's like formwork for concrete, right?
Yeah.
If you don't put up the scaffolding, the barriers, the structure around it, you pour the concrete in, it just goes everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people can, like a routine, a daily routine is so important, but it also doesn't have to be scary.
Yeah.
And a lot of these successful folks, or, people like Goggins or whatever, their idea of a daily routine is like so beyond mere mortals.
Correct.
Right? It's like, but it can be as simple as like 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening.
Yes.
Starting your day, just getting into a positive frame of mind. Maybe there's some exercise in there. Might just be a cup of tea out listening to the birds.
Yeah.
But compare that to like hitting snooze 3 times, rolling out of bed, coffee, up and go in the car, off to work.
Yeah.
It's just 2 completely different things.
Yes.
And the beautiful thing I reckon about this journey is, again, start small, literally 5 minutes morning and night.
Yeah.
And then build on it.
Yeah.
Like my morning routine at the moment, hour and a half, 2 hours long. And to fit that in with work and kids and all the rest of it, it means I got to get up early.
Yeah.
And there was a long period in my life where getting up early was like not a thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And if you told me then what my routine was today, I'd just be like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's not me.
But today, that's me and it makes sense and I want to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Because you know the benefits that reflects from that routine, right? And how that self-worth comes as well, fulfilling something that you set out to do.
Totally.
And I think a lot of us fall down by having all the right aspirations, but not carrying it out.
Yep.
And carrying it out is 90% of the work. It's that grind of sticking to that routine, and the routine builds the mindset, which builds better mental health, physical health, makes you more flexible as a human, makes your critical thinking better, it allows you to develop better relationships with everyone and get more out of life, basically.
That's it. In any aspect, man, like sport, art, business, like fitness, really good sportsmen don't just run out on the track and get a world record.
Yeah.
Like there's discipline and structure and years and years of it to get to a certain point.
Correct.
Artists, amazing artists, do their art every day.
Yeah.
Like it's what they do, you know. And I think that's the thing, right out in the bush, like when we woke up on our trip, we weren't doing morning routines as such because we were already in that place.
We were, yes.
Right? There was we jump in the ice cold water, everyone's bloody alive and awake and birds are chirping and we're deep in the wilderness. But I think in our modern culture and society, when we're in our aircon, in the comfy bed and got the iPhone there, and it often requires a bit of extra discipline to offset that stuff.
Correct.
You know?
Yeah. So for you personally on your journey now, what excites you? Like what's your real fire? Because I meet a lot of people, and you burn with a fire that tells a story, and that you're passionate about what you do, and the goodwill and intent that's hidden behind those eyes is clear to see. And I guess it's, from my point of view, I look at it with excitement to think, well, here's another guy like myself that's fucked a lot of things up and made lots of mistakes and continues just to try and keep going to be better.
Yeah.
Like, that's really what it's all about. And I guess I see that in you. I see that burningness to almost try and reach out to others, you know, and to say, and to try and lead by example and offer a friendly hand to say, hey, there's simple few things and you can do to really change your life a fair bit from where you may think that it's not changeable. So I'm excited for you to see you share that as you did with us. That changed all of us. The other 5 gentlemen changed all of us forever, and just, I guess, reconnected us. So I guess a lot of gratitude to you. And is that somewhere that you want to continue to pursue?
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, that's what's happening. What's the best way to explain it? So I've talked about it a bit, like where we went on that school camp. It was the same place that I took you men out for our bush immersion. And I've spent a lot of time out there over the years. There was almost like a magnet just pulling me out there, and I was out there for a number of years in a really dark place in my life. I was severely clinically depressed and suicidal, and something just kept pulling me out there. I'd be out there, you know, I'd take a backpack and, do walks for a couple of days off the tracks and into the bush. And I had times out there, just crying in the dirt, just fucked up, man, like really unwell. And but something in that country just kept pulling me back. And I think it was, in hindsight, it was because I knew how good I felt there back on that school trip. There was something there. I just had to go there. And I had an experience out there one night when I was close to my worst, and something happened in that night time, and the next morning life was no longer miserable and hopeless and not worth living. Like, I walked out of the bush and life was incredible again. And I was better. That's like the best way to put it. Yeah. I was better.
Yeah.
And there's been the time, like my time in addiction, where it's basically slow form suicide.
Yeah.
Just killing myself day by day. And then there was actual clinical depression and suicidal stuff in recovery, so no addiction involved. And what got me better was going out into the bush and tapping into that connection, as well as all the stuff we've been talking about, herbal medicine, diet and lifestyle, plant medicine, all that stuff. And that's the beautiful thing about taking people on a wellness journey. It's not just this. It's not just take this pill and everything's sorted.
Yeah.
It's your morning routine. It's what you're eating. It's what's your movement and exercise looking like, and getting people out into the bush. So that's what inspired me to start my business. And what I'm doing now is facilitating that for others. So providing the container. So someone can come to me and I do these high-level bush immersions for high-functioning humans and take people away from stress, business, phones, relationship dramas, poor health, out of shape, and we just leave all that in town and we go out bush. And you experienced it. There's a whole heap of stuff that we do out there and a whole heap of intentional things that go on.
Yeah.
And so that's my business now. So I'm doing that, leading these bush immersions for groups.
Yep.
Groups of friends, groups of randoms, businesses. So like people are bringing might be their executive team or the leadership team from their business. And there's a beautiful piece there that can happen around not just on an individual level, but all the team building stuff, the connection stuff. And then the other part of what I do is the one-on-one work. So if my aim is to be the person that I would have paid 10 grand for at a whole bunch of different points in my life.
Yeah.
Like if someone had come to me when I was fucked up in addiction and said, mate, go see this guy. Like, I'm not going to bother explaining it, just go spend some time.
Yeah.
And if there'd been the opportunity, like if someone would say, you've got to go see this guy and go on one of his trips, it'll change your life.
Yeah.
Because that's what it did for me. It literally 180'd my life.
Yeah.
Like, I was close to ending my life. And today it's the exact opposite. Yeah. It's like there's not enough time left to do all the shit that I want to do. Yeah. Life is incredible and a gift, and it's like, let's not waste a second more. Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing, man, because when you look at the big picture of life about what you can take away and the things you can buy, to give people back a sense of worth and they feel like that there's a space for them in this world is probably the most important thing, and it doesn't just have to be with friends and family, it can be with people you barely know.
Yeah.
And to be able to give people a simple toolkit to be able to move their life forward, I really respect that within you, and I also know that the reason why that you touch people so deeply is because you're honest about your own journey, and you've touched both sides of the bedroom walls. Like, you've been to here and you've been to here.
Yeah.
So when you tell people about it, you're not telling people from what you've been told, you're telling them from your experience, which has to be earned. It's an apprenticeship in darkness and finding a way, and that is something to be cherished, because there's no one I know that goes through life without some real trauma, tragedy.
Everyone, man.
Everyone.
Yep.
So it's what we're trying to do, and why I feel so lucky to have you on today, is that I really just want this whole podcast to be a simple network framework to allow people to come on and share a story, inspire others with like integrity and honesty and complete authenticity. Not trying to sell something or pretend you're something. It's all about, this is where I've been, this is what I've tried to do, this is what I'm trying to do now, and this is how I try and go about it. And if any of that kind of works for you guys, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
You know, like, so in a world of shiny wings, I'd rather look at the rock behind the shine and try and break that down, because even for myself, I'm still breaking it down all the time.
Yeah.
And continuing to fail. And I guess as I've got older, I'm not afraid of failing anymore at anything really, because I know that on the other side of that is something really beautiful, but it's hard to digest at the time.
I think too, this podcast, what you just spoke about, what you're trying to do, there's real power in that, because I know for me, if someone tells me what to do, the minute I get told what to do, that's what I do.
Yeah.
But what's been really powerful in my life is where people just share their truth.
Yeah.
And there's been a bunch of different points in my life that because people just share their truth, that's because they're not telling me what to do. They're just going, this is my story.
Yeah.
This is where I was. This is where I am now. This is how I got there.
Yeah.
And part of me lights up. I'm like wildly attracted to that, because I go, fucking hell.
That's an option then, right?
Look at that woman or look at that man. I want to be like that. And they just told me how to do it.
Yeah.
So now it's my choice, and fuck yeah, I'm like inspired.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, that's probably, I reckon, that's what it's about, I reckon, is inspiration. And it's not for everyone. So it's like, if someone gets something out of what I said, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And if you want, like, give us a ring, like send me an email, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, love to chat.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then that's cool too.
Yeah.
Probably get something out of like your other guests. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So look, so I guess personally, as men as well, it's I find it incredibly easy to talk to you honestly about things, which is not always easy. Especially, I guess, us guys that don't have the social platforms where being really honest is really revered, because you're trying to hold face and protect your ego, protect your business position or the perception of your clients and those fellow workers. So I guess you get to a stage in your life where you really just don't, you do really good things, but you don't give a fuck if those good things are not appreciated or they are appreciated. And I think that getting to that stage in your life is critical to get there at some point, so that you can then do good work without fearing anyone else judging you, that's actually going to penetrate the little world that you've built. And to me, I see that you've built that world and you're going to share that with others. And to me, that's kind of, it's having a story and having some teachings is really important in this day and age. And I just want to say thanks for being you, man, because I know I'm a better human for meeting you a year ago, and you sharing your story and me spilling my guts to you about things that I feel deficient in and things that I still don't have answers for. So I guess I just want to thank you for having that energy transaction with me that just makes life more beautiful.
Of course.
And then transfers onto everyone else around us, because there's a certain piece in not pretending.
For sure.
Pretending takes too much energy. For me, I just
Yeah. I think it's
fuck pretending. Just be yourself. So as long as yourself is a good regime, you know.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Thanks, bro.
Good to see you.
Yeah.